So today I'm going to take this boring blog post layout that's the default from the Divi theme. I'm going to turn it into this. Something that you can use quite easily, and that looks, all you need to do is use the block editor, but the template is set so that every time you create a blog post, you get something stunning and visual like what you see here. So let's get started. So I'm back to my blog post, and this is the layout I've got here. I've got this featured image and just some basic text. If I edit the post, you'll see it's just a block editor post, and we're going to create a layout so that whenever we create a blog post in the block editor, we get to something really, really cool. And basically, we're going to want to point this out. We've got our featured image over here, which is also going to be a big part of that layout. But essentially, we're just going to get started. We're going to head into our back end of WordPress. And I'm going to just scroll down and head to Divi and then to Theme Builder. And then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to create a new template here. I'm going to make it for all posts in my blog. However, you can also just apply this to certain categories if you want to, or post with specific tags. So that is something that you can consider when doing these designs, is maybe having different layouts for different categories or tags or even specific posts. But we're going to create this template, and we're going to, first of all, I'm going to save changes. Then I'm going to come back down to my new all posts template and click add custom body. And I'm going to build a custom body. So the way it starts, I'm going to zoom out a tiny bit, is we want to just start laying some things out on the page. The first thing I'm going to do, this area is going to be where I put the heading and the featured image, but we're going to move down and start putting in some of the elements down here. So I'm going to click plus. I'm going to add in a regular section here. So I'm clicking the blue plus because I want to add in a full regular section. And I want some space for my sidebar. So I'm going to have my content be on the left here with a nice fat sidebar on the right. So I'm going to click on that. The first thing I'm going to do is add in, if I scroll down, post content here. So we've got our post content here on the left. On the right, we're going to add in our sidebar. So scroll down to sidebar. And the widget area is just going to be the sidebar. Click OK. And it's just a little bit too zoomed in. So now I have my basic sidebar here. And I also have my content section on the left. So we're going to come back to that in a minute, and we're going to start styling the header first. So the first thing I'm going to do is, because we're using a featured image, I'm going to click into this blue section, click on the blue cog. I also want to make sure, since we're starting, that when I add in this row, it's actually empty at the moment. That's going to be full width. But for now, I'm going to click the cog, and we'll actually change our mind about that row. But anyway, the background, I'm actually just going to add an image for now, just so we can see what we're working with. So I'm going to click a background image and just choose something completely different, actually, like this blue temple here. So we can just see what we're looking at. We're actually going to come back and change that soon. One of the things we want to do now is add in our section. Now, I did say we're going to go full width, but I'm actually going to switch that up. I'm going to go for something more, say, 50-50. So we've got two columns, one here, one over there. And I'm going to add in post title right here. Now we have all these options here, and I don't really want any of them there apart from just the title, because we're going to really customize this a little bit. So under elements here on the setting, I'm going to actually just remove everything except for the title. So we have just the title. I'm going to go to design, and I'm going to make the text white because we're going to actually add a black box behind this. So we're going to use text background color. I want the text color to be light and the text background to be black. So now we have this nice little box here. Now, if we have a long title, like we most likely will, that's probably going to be a little bit small. So what we might do, again, is just hover over this green, go to our column layout, and just make that a bit wider. Now, the other thing I want to do is actually want this to have a lot of impact. So I'm going to try and make this whole section be the full width of the header or close to it. So I'm going to go into the cog section on these green columns, click on design and sizing. I'm going to make the max width be, say, 95%. And the width here will drag also up to 95%. So now we have this rather large section here. Now here's the cool part, is now that we've got that there, we're going to add in our meta. This is obviously optional, But when I hover over this, I want to add another section. I'm actually not getting my plus button for some reason. So what I can do instead is go down the bottom to the purple dot here. I can choose this little symbol here with the two, so like the diamond and the underline. Go to my navigator or layers, whatever you want to call it. And under this first section, I can just open everything up. So the section and the row and the first column. And I'm going to click the little plus symbol at the end there. And I'm going to add another post title. There we go. But this time, under elements, I'm going to turn off the title. I'm going to turn off, we can show the meta. I've got the author there. I can choose to leave that on or leave it off. For now, I'm going to leave those three on, but I'm going to say turn off post categories, maybe the comment count. I don't want to show the featured image. So what I can do now, I'm going to go down to my background, and I'm going to give it a different background color, so maybe white. And I'm actually going to just go to design here. And we're going to just style this a little bit. First thing is, this is a little bit close to the edge. So under spacing, I'm going to add some padding to the inside of that box. So I might just say it's 5 pixels, 5 pixels, 5 pixels, 5 pixels. We've got something pretty cool there. The bottom seems to be a little bit big. So I'm actually going to make the bottom just 1. And we're going to sort of test that out. And we might just pump up the top a little bit. Now, I don't want this to be the same width. I want it to sort of have a different effect. So I'm going to go spacing, go up to sizing, and it has a width here. I can actually shrink that width to say 75%, and you can see it's starting to take shape. So the next thing I'm going to do is, we've got some space here between these two. I want to try to join them up and give this a bit of presence. So I'm going to click back up on this top one here onto the gray and click the gray cog, because we want to add in, for what I'm going to add in a shadow. So I'm going to go to design, box shadow. I'm going to just add a shadow, and I'm going to scroll down. I can adjust this. I can adjust the blur a little bit if I want to. I can click on the color and make the shadow a little stronger by increasing or decreasing the opacity. Depends on how you view that. And under spacing on margin, I'm going to give it a margin at the margin at the bottom of 0. And now we've connected those two up. So now we have this look here. Next thing we want to do is, to really give that image some impact, I'm going to just increase these margins at the top here a little bit, but I'm really going to increase the size of the bottom one to, at the moment, about 250 pixels, which is pretty massive. It's too big for people to scroll to, but we're going to create a bit of an effect with this. What I'm going to do is now click onto the next section, and I'm going to just decrease this padding here. Make sure you're clicking just in the inside. If you're not sure about this, in both areas we want to change the padding. So I'm going to blue and the cog, design and spacing, and it's the padding here that we're changing. So I can make that less. And the same here, this 250 section, if I go into the cog to design and spacing, you'll see we've got 70 at the top, 250 at the bottom. So the next step, we're just going to shut this down, is we're going to take this content section here and we're going to move it up. The first thing I'm going to do is actually move the whole row up, and then just this content section. So I'm going to click on this green area for the cog, and where it says design and spacing on the margin, I'm going to say -240, and you'll see it's all been moved up. Now we've got a problem where the background's not showing up, but we're going to fix that soon. We're going to go tick, and what I want to do is take the, actually I shouldn't have ticked out of that. We're going back in, and we're going to go into the individual columns and change the settings there. So we've got the first column, which is the left, and the second column, which is the right. If I click on the little cog here, I can change my background to white, which looks okay. And then of course over to design, I can add in a box shadow if I want to again. And then the second column, we're going to go over to just by clicking out here or clicking the tick. And the second column, we're going to make the background black. Now we don't necessarily want that space there. That's actually part of the sidebar widget we'll fix in a minute. But we're going to go to design and to spacing and just add in, say, 10 pixels all the way around, just so we can really see that black. And then we're going to click tick. Now, secondly, I want to just eliminate this space here. So I'm going to go, I'm in the row settings now. So I've gone through the columns, I've ticked, and if you're not sure, you can always just tick again and then go back in. If you're not certain, go into the design section, and where it says spacing here, I'm going to, sorry, not under spacing, under sizing at the top, use custom gutter width. And then I'm going to drag that down to the bottom, and you'll see we now have this effect here. So it's got like kind of like this attachment. If I add more widgets down there, that'll sort of show up as well. But what I'm going to do, I can also equalize the column heights and make it full height if I want to. I don't think that looks great in this instance, so I'm just going to turn that off. But one of the things I really want to do is I want to tick, but this sidebar module, we're going to fix that up. We're going to fix that space because there's a little divider line there. I'm going to click on the cog, go to design and layout. I'm going to turn off the show border separator, click tick. Another thing I'm going to do is, even though we have some padding here, for some reason in Divi, this padding doesn't actually show on the front end. So we're going to go back into the padding area, so under post content. So hovering over, getting the gray box, clicking the cog, and then we're going to go to design and spacing again and just add in some padding. So this time we might say 20, 20, 20, 20, and it's not going to be that big on the final one. So you know what, we'll go 30, just to be sure. Now, I'm ticking out. The next thing I want to do to create like a bit of separation is I want to move this sidebar down a bit. So I'm actually going back in here again to the row so I can play with the columns. So cog, into the second column here, down to design, spacing. Now I can't actually add in my margin there, which is a bit of an issue. But what I can do is go over to advanced, and under custom CSS on the main element, I can type in margin-top 50px, and you'll see it's moved. So you see there, margin-top colon 50px, and we get this little offset here like that, which is pretty cool. And what we can also do, if I just tick that, is I've got a shadow on this element. I do believe I can increase that, although we're going up against a black background so it won't show up. But you can see how it's starting to take shape. Now, if I tick out of that, if I decide that this is too close to the header, I can still click in here and drag this down to create more space and get a cool effect. Another thing I can do to create a cool effect is, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to click on this background here on the next section and just give it a background color. So we'll go maybe a gray or something like that. You can choose, I think, a bit of a bluey sort of color. Bring that down. Pretty happy with that. Maybe I'll lighten it up a little bit. Click tick. Now I can actually go into this section here, to this cog section, design and dividers, and at the bottom I can choose something a little different. Maybe I want a curve or something that has a few layers to it. And I can make that pretty tall now because we've got a lot of space. So about 145 I like, I tick out. And now we have a pretty impactful setup. Now, the other thing we want to do, we've got some dynamic content here. We've got some dynamic content there. We want to actually make this background a dynamic section. So I'm going to click on the section and on the cog, go to background, and click on the background image. I actually want to completely can this image and click on the little circles and plus symbol here and choose featured image. So now any blog or any page where we choose a featured image, that image will be blown up to the background size and show fully there. Now another thing we can do is add in, say, a little call to action at the end. So I'm going to click here, click plus, add my call to action. I don't like that background color, so I'm just going to quickly add in this background, make it black. And obviously it might be to subscribe, so let's just say subscribe for more. We have more here. Whatever you want to put in there to push, sort of be on the point right now. Put the button, maybe we link off to, you know, another page or something. Now, keeping in mind, you can actually click this little button here again for dynamic content, choose a page link, and scroll. So maybe I want to go to my portfolio, click OK. But you can also just pop in a URL, whatever you do. If you want to know how to use the call to action, I would actually recommend Maybe I'll do a video on that, pop that on there so you can work on that. But there's something else I want to do as well. I want this to stand out, not just be sort of clicked onto the bottom. So what I'm actually going to do is under Design and Transform, I'm going to scale this slightly, say 110%. And what I can do is also move it. I can take the position and move it across. So Transform, Translate, Unlink, and I can just sort of move it over this way as well and move it down. So I have like this cool offset effect with my blog post, and it's looking pretty good. Now, this is not necessarily going to work on mobile, but we will come back and explore that. So I'm going to tick, I'm going to save, and I'm actually going to X out and just double check by scrolling up. I want to have these changes saved. Probably actually didn't need to save it at the start, but I like to save as frequently as possible. I recommend if you're doing any theme builder work, save it as frequently as possible so you're never losing any information or you accidentally click out and lose anything. So I've got that saved, and now I'm going to tab back, and this time I'm going to view my post. So I'm going to update. You see I've got my featured image here. I'm going to click View Post, and now we've got a completely different layout. There's a few issues we do need to fix up, like that text has actually come down and it hasn't worked the way we thought it would. But you can see here, the blog post is being set up and showing there. We've got our subscription there. And we can also take things to another level, add some animations as well. But you can see here how we've got something completely different and something pretty catchy. So I'm going to head back, and now that I've seen this, I do feel like there's more I could be doing with it. So I'm actually going to tab on back, and we're going to play with it just a little bit more. Scroll down, all posts. Now, one thing I'm not liking here, this blue color doesn't really work. So it's always good to check. But I'm going to actually click into this section. I'm going to go with that really crazy green so that it actually matches the branding. We're going to fix up the padding on this because it didn't really show up the way it showed up here. Another reason to test, so we're going to go back into spacing. We're actually just going to make everything linked, and we're going to make it all 7. I'll link this again, and I'm going to make this 10. So that way it's even. Looks a bit uneven on the screen here, but we've been shown that it doesn't really show up that way. So now to create something completely, something that's really going to stand out. With this post title settings here, I'm going to go down to animation. I'm going to add in a slide, and it's going to slide in. I don't want it to come in from the center. I want it to slide in from the right. So I'm actually going to go left. So it slides in from the right to the left. Now, it just travels a bit too far. I'm going to make the intensity a little bit less so it's a little more subtle. And also, I'm going to delay this animation by 150 or say 200 milliseconds. Click tick. And also, this top area here, I'm going to do the same again. Design, animation, slide, and I'm going to go to the right. And I might take the intensity down again. Okay. And we can go through and set up animations everywhere. So I can take this full... Maybe I'll take the content, leave it where it is, but maybe the second column, if I go into the section and then into the column, I'll go to Design, Animation, Slide, and I'm going to say Up. So whoop, slides up there, pop the intensity down. The other thing we can also do is give a bit of a fancier effect to this background. So I'm going to click in here, and where it has background, we're going to go and choose something a little bit fancier like parallax. This image is a little low res on that post, so I don't know how well it's going to look. So tick on out, and it's starting to look a little bit more like it. And again, our call to action, once that actually loads, it's taking its time. So once again, I'm going to go purple over here, and at the bottom of this section to my row, first column, because we're in that left column, I'm going to change the call to action settings and give it a little animation as well. So we're going to go to animation, slide, and we're going to go right. Although I do believe there's probably a little bit of an issue with the transform, so we'll just test that out and see how it looks. We can probably even just leave it as it is. Once again, I'm going to save, and we're going to switch back and refresh for our test. So now when people land, they get a much more impressive sort of landing, and we get this cool parallax effect in the background. and things are starting to look pretty good. And once again, just to prove how effective it is and how easy, if I go back into this post and edit it, it's still just a standard block editor post. But what we might do is change this featured image so we can see how it looks. Do something a bit bigger. This one's small, that one's we'll go with this image for now, just because it's a little bit wider. It's probably not going to be a hell of a lot better, but we will just click in for a sec, make sure we got the right size. Oops, click in, set featured image, update, and view post. So now we've got this parallax effect, and the head does disappear a little bit, but you sort of get the idea. If I just quickly choose another one, we'll just quickly dart ahead and I'll choose another image. Okay, so I've switched to this image I found here on Unsplash, and if you click on over, you'll see it's got a pretty cool effect when we load the page, and once again, it's just a standard blog post. So what exactly does this look like on a phone? We need to actually check this out and tweak it so that way when someone views this on a phone, it actually doesn't look sort of difficult to read or out of place. So we're actually going to decrease the browser size. If I actually right click here and go to inspect, bring this over. This is in Chrome. There's a little tab here I can click, and you'll notice it actually doesn't look too bad. So we could possibly leave this if we want to. Some of the padding. We've got a problem here with the subscribe for more issue. The sidebar is showing up all right, the footer. So we've got to fix this here. That's an issue. And anything else we see that could be an issue on the page, like again, I said again, the spacing. Otherwise, everything else here is looking pretty good. Maybe this image is a bit tall and we want people to see the information quicker. So we're going to tab back to the theme builder and make some adjustments. So if I hover over this section here and click on the gray and the cog, now where we set our transform earlier, if I scroll down to transform, I can hover over this and pick the little phone symbol. And then when it goes to tablet, I can simply make this 100% again. So I type in 100, and the position, I will also move back to 0, so I'll just type in 0 and 0. So a little less fancy, but you can see here it looks, if I close that, it doesn't look too bad. And again on phone, now it will actually fit into the phone quite nicely. And if I scroll back up, I'm going to tick out of here. This text might be a little bit too big for mobile. And also what I'm going to do is, if I click on this dot down here, if it's not open, toggle that on and off, I actually just go to phone here and edit it in that mode. So I'm going to click on this title and go to design and title text, and I can click the phone symbol here. If I hover over next to title text size, I can click the phone symbol and I can drag that down a bit, so it's just not quite as huge. And on top of that, if I click on the section and go to the cog, so the blue area with that cog, with the sections are blue, rows are green, I go to design and spacing. And where we've got our padding here, I can go to my phone section here. I can make this say 30, and I can make the bottom say 150. And you can see things still look pretty good. I do want to check tablet as well. Tablet's not too bad, but let's make that bottom say 190 or maybe 150 again, and the top about 45. So we can actually tailor this to the platform. So on tablet it doesn't look too bad, but essentially now the spacing is probably okay on tablet for the actual blog post module. I'm going to click on this section here and go to the row, I should say, not the section. Click on the cog, and I'm going to just make this a bit wider for devices. So I go to design and to sizing, and where it has the width at 80%, I'm going to hover over to phone, click on the tablet, and I can actually make that a bit bigger so it fills up a little bit more of that space. And then when I go to phone, if I want to, I can still make it pretty wide, so 95% or something like that. And then on top of that, I can go into my actual blog post module. So clicking on the gray cog, design, and to spacing again. We've got a lot of padding here. Click on that phone symbol, the tablet, and maybe we adjust the tablet down to 20. And maybe the phone, I still keep it at about 15 at least. So we maximize that size. Tick. I save this, I tab on back, and then refresh. So now things are a little bit easier to see. The content is filling up more of the page, so it's easier to read, and everything is looking pretty good here. And I'm happy with that on mobile. I can also change this drop down to responsive and just play with the width and see what we get. I can also play with the height. So if I'm using it landscape, you can see what kind of result you get that way. And then we can just size it out, and you can see that we now have a pretty good sort of layout. Full screen if I title out. Now if I zoom out and say we've got a huge monitor, that's how it's going to look. If I zoom in, it's all responsive, and we've got a pretty cool layout. So that is essentially what we can do with the Divi Theme Builder. We've got our animations, we've got some cool little effects here, and we've got a pretty cool layout. So I hope you found that useful. Just a little design video for you to create a particular design layout. Let me know how you go if you have a go at this, and also if you've got any other cool layouts you see around there, feel free to drop a link or even send me an email. My email will be in the description below, because I'd love to see if you have any other ideas of blog layouts you'd like to see, how they could be made using the Divi Builder. Again, with the focus on being able to just write blog posts in the block editor. So, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider giving it a like. Otherwise, I hope to see you again next time. Have a great day.